Michael Kidd, class of 72, from Menor, Ohio. Happily married, 32 years, and she still likes me. 3 children, 3 grandchildren. Retired from the electric company after 32 years playing with high voltage electricity, and living life large.
Years you were at AMA?
From 1968 to 1972, freshman to senior year, yeah.
How did you end up at AMA?
A young man that I grew up with by the name of Arthur Heuselbauer. He was my next door neighbor, and his parents had taken him to Augusta. Well, if my parents hadn't have taken me to Augusta, I'd have never finished high school. I was definitely going down a wrong road. So they took me there, took a look at it. I said, yeah, why not? The first year, it was like, my God, what did my parents get me into? But it was interesting.
What was it that you disliked about AMA most?
I had a chip on my shoulder. I was 5'5" and weighed 88 pounds. And I had a little man syndrome. My first year, I was in 17 fistfights in 9 months and lost 90% of them. You looked at me the wrong way, it's like, let's dance. I didn't care.
So what did you do with your free time besides fight?
Well, my second year, I was on the rifle team, I was on the swim team, and during nice weather, going back in Bald Rock, just by myself. Back in the back hills, what they called Cow Patty Beach.
And what did you do on Saturdays?
First year, movies, downtown Stanton. Didn't have a clue on how to interact with Stewart Hall, the girls' school, but I picked up on that quite rapidly my second year, starting at Stewart Hall and then finishing up my AMA career at Fairfax Hall. It was another girls' school.
Your first few days at AMA?
Yes, I do. My platoon sergeant was a guy by the name of Sandy Henderson from Kenston, North Carolina. He came to my room and told me to sweep the stoop. I didn't know what a stoop was. He comes back about a half hour later and says, I thought I told you to sweep the stoop. And I says, you want it swept? You sweep it. Wrong answer. He threw me around the room a little bit. That's when I thought, my God, what did my parents get me into? At the end of the school year, when they dismissed us from the mess hall, that you had to make it to your room, and then you can put a dip in your hat. While everybody was trying to get to their room, myself and 2 other individuals who I don't remember went down to the PX. We put dips in our hats, and then we came back and everybody says, you made it to your room? Oh yeah, I made it to my room. We cheated.
Who was your first roommate?
Joshua Seda from San Juan, Puerto Rico. He was a senior.
And did you have a favorite teacher or subject?
I don't know about favorite teacher, but the one that made the most impact on my life, and a lot of people would probably say it was Colonel Hoover. I got into electronics in my livelihood, and while everybody else in regular high school had general math, I had Algebra 1, Algebra 2, introductory trigonometry. So I was ahead of the game when I started going through my apprenticeship. So I ended up tutoring a number of my fellow workers because they never had that kind of math. So I tell the kids today when they say, oh, I'm never going to use algebra. I used algebra every single day for 32 years.
Did you ever walk tours?
25. I know exactly. I was first sergeant my junior year. A company raid got out of hand due to my own lack of attention, and some property got damaged, and I ended up getting busted, transferred out of the company from first sergeant to platoon sergeant, and 25 tours.
What is a tour?
1 hour of marching on the blacktop in full dress, cross dikes, rifle, the whole kit and caboodle. And it didn't matter on the weather either.
Do you have a special classmate or a roommate that you want to mention?
James Hash. He was also class of 72. He was a rifle team member. And he's the one that got me involved our senior year for the talent show that we won. If you remember that. We had our own band. I was the lead singer. and we had a ball. So Jim Hash was probably one of my closest, dearest friends. He's from Baltimore, and unfortunately, what I've been hearing is that his health hasn't been the greatest.
What's the most memorable sporting event?
Via my state match with the rifle team coach and Sergeant Studer's camper van, and all of us, traveling there. We were very good. Well, I think in '72, the Texas A&N match we took first.
And who were the other members of that rifle squad that you?
Paul Keim, Tom DeValle, Bill Hummer, myself, James Hash, Louis Kennett, Andy Becker. That's all I remember. We were pretty tight.
Do you remember graduation day?
Like it was last month.
What did you do? How did you celebrate?
A lot of crying. Public school people don't understand. We lived with each other. We fought. We had meals together, roommates, arguments, studying, sports. I had 312 brothers my senior year. My graduating class was like 62.
But how did you celebrate graduation?
I got drunk.
Well, there was a celebration party a week after graduation in Ocean City, Maryland. And I'm waiting for someone to bring that up.
Well, there was one individual, and all I'll mention his first name, Tom, that we almost didn't graduate because we were AWOL, and we ended up walking 8 miles from a hotel through back roads, through cow pastures, trying to make it back to barracks before Reveille. And we made it. But and that's, I won't mention the last name, just his first name is Tom. Sergeant Studer allows me to, I enjoy blowing stuff up, so I shoot the cannon for the luncheon. I'm involved in the sporting clays the last couple of years. I enjoyed tremendously until we retired the roller rifles, the marching that we did, and it just amazed people on how a bunch of old guys could still do what we did compared to what we did 40 years ago and still have it.
What are your memories of the mess hall?
Trying to eat as much as you possibly can as fast as you can. And you can ask my wife, I'm still that way to this day.
Was there a particular dish?
Chip beef on toast.
Was that a positive or a negative?
That was a positive, and I don't know if you'll have to edit this out, but it was called shit on a shingle with corn and mashed potatoes.
No fond memories of the bologna sandwiches
No.
on Sunday?
No, I would make about 3 or 4 of them and sneak them back, to the room, along with as many slices of bread and jelly packs that I could appropriate. Steal is just such a harsh word.
Spend a couple minutes talking about your family today.
My mother and father, my father was very, very disappointed my first year at Augusta because he thought he failed me as a father, having someone else raise his son. But when I came home after my first year, he realized how it wasn't a mistake and how much I had changed as far as maturity, as far as respect, how I handled myself. And after that, then he was a fan of Augusta Military Academy. It was my mom's idea because my mom was the softie and my dad was the Marine. And they could never meet in the middle of the road. So for me to survive, I ended up going to Augusta because I was definitely, rebelling against him. And then I tried to rebel against Augusta, and didn't work to my satisfaction my first year.
Humorous moment.
We had a postgraduate by the name of Bill Evans. He was a very, very large African American. And he had come to Augusta for extra credits to get into a better college. His platoon sergeant was a guy by the name of Randy Hollingsworth from Kenston, North Carolina, little itty bitty guy. I was the first sergeant of the company. Randy Hollingsworth walked up to Bill and looked at his shoes, and there was food all over his shoes from the mess hall. Bill looked down at Randy and growled. Randy almost lost body functions. Louis Kennett, who was my company commander at the time, pulled me aside and said, "You need to talk to Bill." And I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, you're from Cleveland." And I go, "What's that got to do with anything?" And he goes, "He's scared Hollingsworth. I mean, Hollingsworth won't even go anywhere near him." And so I went into Bill's room and I says, "You're a postgraduate. You're trying to get into a better college." I says, "You will do what is required. I'm not asking for spit shine shoes. I'm not asking for polished brass, but I prefer not to see food on your shoes." And he goes, "And if I don't?" And I says, "It'd look really good on your resume for a college to get kicked out of a military school." He says, "I see your point." He stopped growling at Randy Hollingsworth.
Do you have military experience?
4 years, a little bit less than 4 years, United States Navy. I was an engineman, diesel mechanic. I love Richard Nixon. The reason why I love Richard Nixon is because about 3 weeks before I was supposed to ship over to Vietnam, my orders got rescinded. And that was in 1974 when he started pulling everybody back.
Did you go to sea?
No, I was supposed to. And my first duty station was Coronado Island, across the bay from San Diego. And I was supposed to go to Kuska, Japan. But my orders were changed. And then in 1974, I fell into an acid tank, spent 3.5 months in a wheelchair at Balboa Naval Hospital in the burn ward. So I'm a DAV. Wasn't my time, plain and simple. It was an accident.
Let's talk about those people in that company that your first year. You said that your Henderson was your
My platoon sergeant.
platoon sergeant. Mm-hmm. And didn't he end up being a lieutenant a couple years?
He ended up being company commander. My junior year, he was company commander. And that was the year that I got busted.
Do you remember the tall...
Bill Trudell. He was my lieutenant. In fact, Bill Trudell constantly heard about me getting in all these fistfights. He calls me to his room. Bill Trudell was a Golden Glove boxer. He tossed me a set of gloves and he goes, "I'm tired of hearing you losing." He started teaching me how to box. The funny thing is that as I was learning, I got into less fights. It wasn't an issue anymore. And I'll be forever grateful to that.
During the earlier interview processes, I made several comments to that it was amazing that 400 kids can live in a small little confinement and that there were no fights.
Well, there was fights.
See, I have no memory of ever seeing a fight the 2 years I was there.
Oh, yeah.
You did it after hours.
After hours, back alley, over on the other side where the tennis court was. And it was always on the hush-hush. And then also after the fight, whoever lost, they were informed that, now remember, you fell. So this way there wouldn't be any repercussions for fighting. Yeah. I fell a lot my first year. I remembered the name, and as soon as I saw you, it's like, I remember Gooch.